Welcome to the Solution, a real estate podcast where Jeff Seabach and myself, Phil Sexton, we come together with mics between us to talk about the industry. And as my intro gets longer, I feel like each time it makes it harder and harder to do in one breath.
Nice.
However, today's topic, which is 5 keys to getting your offer accepted in a low inventory and market, is one that we've been talking about still.
Yeah. Well,
even though inventory's doubled.
Well, I think that there's a lot of conversation out there that demand has come off the peak and people are forgetting because what happens is it's not whether you know of them, if you try and think of it, just whether you use them regularly, right? Because as we talk in our team platform, we hear lots of people, and as we're going through scenarios, we often hear that they didn't include some of the things that we talked about. So it's just a revisit because, you know what, I don't think we're going to see a onslaught of supply anytime soon. So it still requires this, and it's hard because it makes the job of the agent harder, but let's get to it so we can help them out.
All right. So you got a client that you have that wants to write an offer. They tell you show the house, whatever it is. Number one, what is the most important thing on your list? And I'd like to know the timing of it. Is it like pre-offer, post-offer, during offer?
Well, I mean, to me, it's agent to agent communication, meaning your communication with the listing agent is the thing that I think of as the most important thing. And it's even tougher with teams because it's not knowing who is the person, because I have some people that will call on our listing and not knowing who's the
right person on the team that manages the offers for the client.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. So it's why you got to start early in finding that out, is who's doing the negotiation, who's actually talking to the client, because that's the person that knows. And then it's your agent to agent communication with that person.
Yeah. I think that during that first one, agent to agent communication, it's important that you sell your client and the ability of your client to close on the property as well.
That's exactly what it is one, the reason why it's called communication, because that means you're actually talking to them and to understand. It's hard because a lot of times agents try and shield themselves from people, but it's why you want to start, because your credibility really comes into factor here. And it's hard because if you're new, you may not have any, but then it's still just everything that you say and everything that you're talking to the other agent about, they're building their image of you. Like, are you a dingbat? Are you sharp, but you haven't sold anything? Like, you, as a listing agent, you automatically build opinions right as soon as somebody talks to you. And it's actually, we see the ones that are getting accepted are the ones that communicate early and often, and that they put together a solid offer. We're going to get the other things, but it's hard because if you don't sell a lot of houses, you have to be crisp. And it's hard when you haven't. So
yeah, I thought one of the comments that we heard this week was whenever this one particular agent has a cross sale, always save the agent's information in your phone, because you never know when you're going to be presenting an offer on their property in the future. It's nice to be able to rehash oh yeah, you do know that I'm an agent that can get deals done because we've done one together before.
Yeah.
Right. When they call you,
or even when you, I mean, to me, why it matters is because when you're going out to see the property, hopefully everybody's going out to see the property, but when you're going out to see the property, you have that choice of reaching out, and you have that choice to start to put their phone number in your, like, the point is if the home's close to what your buyer wants. Right. So on that, when it's there, you know that
you start talking to that agent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Because before I mean, hopefully you're seeing it day zero. Hopefully you're seeing it pre-sale, or, you're seeing it right away. So because once the offers start rolling in, you're not going to get in touch with the listing agent. That's going to be hard unless you've had rapport with them already. And I think that agents, they're like, oh, they won't talk to me. Well, you showed up after 36 hours on the market and they're already talking to 3 or 4 people, and that's all they got time to talk to. Unfortunately, you were late, and now you ruined your agent communication, thinking it's not you because you called them 17 times.
Yeah, but they're good. They've got 5 people that are ready to write that they've had communication with earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah,
Agent to agent communication, a critical number one.
it's just, I guess the way to say it is when we see accepted deals, the most common thing we hear is successful agent communication got it done.
And it's not all pre-deal that happens. Sometimes or pre-offer that happens. Sometimes the agent to agent communication is during when there's other offers there.
Oh, it's absolutely.
And-
but you got to make sure that they're picking up your call. So if you call and waste their time early on,
then they're
right. Like if you go on and on, like to me, be courteous of their time, understand that they're going to have a lot of traffic. And then when you communicate, be ready for the communication. Make sure you got your stuff written out and your questions. Cause like to me, not realizing that maybe if you're too just trying to build rapport with them and, like maybe that's not what they want.
Yeah. Right. All right. Number 2, this one, man, we've had, be sure it's received. That's so simple.
It's so simple.
It's so it's too simple.
Yeah. I think it's harder now with the multiple offers, and obviously we're dealing with this, but in multiple offers, offers can slide through, right? So it's received, but then also,
I think this goes back to the thing that you mentioned already, and that is who's the one that's going to be presenting the offers. Because sometimes on teams, you may get a received response, but you don't know who the person is that's communicating with the client about those contracts. And so, yes, you may get a TC response, but do you actually want to fight harder to make sure that agent who's negotiating the contracts got that offer too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Number 3.
So received by the person that's negotiating the offer, not just right.
Yep.
Okay.
Number 3.
Competitive.
Make sure that your offer is competitive.
Yes.
That's a big one.
Well,
that's a big term. That's a big one word.
Yes. Well, the thing is it's hard to know what actually competitive is, right? Like we see or we hear about a lot of deals and the agent felt that we were being competitive, and it's hard when you're not being competitive the comment we talked about in last podcast with Grant Cardone saying outsiders move markets. Outsiders are moving our market, and those people think it's a good deal, and you can't believe that neighborhood's selling at that price, right? So it's a lot of pressure on you helping your client, because more importantly, it's whether the client understands what they have to do to be competitive or not.
Right. And I think competitive, it's funny because I think it kind of ties into the next one, but we've had agents that got ghosted with full price offers or with over ask offers. And how is that even possible? Well, the answer is you weren't competitive, right? You got smoked. That's feedback.
Yes.
Sometimes no feedback is feedback.
Yes. Feedback is that you were not aggressive enough, right? And it's mostly talking about price. And I see it in things like not understanding the impact of contingencies. Right now, when I say that, mostly everybody thinks is on a listed house, but it's also the contingencies in your offer, right? Because understanding and being competitive, the seller is looking for an offer that's in their best interest. That's what makes it competitive or not. And then also that the deal will get done. And that's usually what the agent cares more about is this deal going to happen, right? So you may not be competitive in the sense of, if you don't sell a lot of houses and they don't think that you're going to be competitive, you might have to be more competitive. Your offer has to be substantially above the others.
Yeah.
Because they might go with somebody that does a lot of deals and they know that it's going to get, because the question is more is for the because there's 2 pieces, right? Because you have the seller, but then you have the listing agent that pushes the seller one way or the other when it's close. Not always, but it leads to you doing enough research on who is the listing agent. Is the listing agent selling 2 houses a year? And then it's more probably the seller's got more influence. If you're working with Robert Jaffe, I believe that he's he's an elite luxury agent in our marketplace, sells $100 million a year. He's gonna have more influence. And he may be like, I have no influence, because when you're working in a luxury market, usually it's the seller that makes they could,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think number 4 on our list, which we're blazing through our list today. This
is where we're going to get stuck.
Right. Well, because, and it also ties into number 3.
It's just that in setting it up, if you don't execute 1, 2, and 3 well, 4 doesn't matter.
And 4 is,
and it's hard because everybody wants to talk about number 4, but
terms,
right?
The terms of the deal.
Yes.
So you can have a competitive deal or a non-competitive deal.
Well, I mean, we had a cash offer this week that our agents, the buyer was like, I'm cash.
Over ask.
Didn't get a response, lost the deal. And that,
We got an offer on one of our listings, cash over ask, but they got smoked by a financed offer.
Right.
Wasn't that? Yes, it happens. And so then that cash over ask is like, how did I not win this deal? Like, you put yourself on the other side, which a lot of agents do. They're like, man, I've been a buyer's agent in this market, and that's so hard. I hate to reject all of these offers. I want to help everybody. Right.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the listing agent, who's the listing agent's client?
The seller.
The seller. So we've got to stick up for what's best for the seller, not, unfortunately, look out for what's best for our fellow realtors when you're in a deal like this.
Right.
So some of the terms that we've been hearing a lot about, with obviously the additional clause addendum, which has come out into play a lot lately, with the non-refundable earnest money, with the appraisal waivers. Like,
I know, but I think let's list them out, right?
Yeah.
So to me, you have in our contract, and thank you if you're listening from out of state, but so we call them contingencies, right? So you have title, right? You have HOA contingency, you have inspection, you have appraisal if there's a loan. And then you have
CC&Rs, you've got spuds.
There you go. Is there one more? Am I missing one? I thought there's 6.
Let's ask the crowd.
I have the
financing, separate than appraisal.
Financing. There you go. That's 6. Okay, good. Right. So title, HOA, inspection, appraisal, spuds, and financing, all things that the buyer in Arizona purchase contract allow the buyer to
Clue
get
report.
Clue report. Yeah, but we're gonna do clue in
fair.
In fair. A clue is, but it's usually resolved in the inspection period. I guess it's not. I mean, fair. You could do clue. But it's are you waiving the term?
The contingencies.
Any of the contingencies. Right. Yes. I mean, because we just saw one where our buyer was, because what we found out this week, because we had one where the home didn't appraise twice. They waived the appraisal and then they canceled because they didn't qualify. Right. Well, we're taking that one to mediation because that was clearly misled. But the reality is when the buyer wants out, they're going to want to use one of these things. But it speaks to the thing that the seller wants certainty. So, but mostly, what does the seller care about in these contingencies?
Whether they're going to get to keep the earnest money if it falls out or not.
Well, of course, right? And then it's what's not on there is I guess it's not number 5, maybe it's number 6 would be amount. I guess it's still terms. Amount of earnest money would be a term, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. But no, I meant that is it going to close for sure? And it's hard because you're a buyer's agent and you have the buyer, they're not going to cancel. You're trying to sell them on it, but these contingencies exist.
Yeah. And
when it comes down to it, they're going to cancel because of it. No matter, to me, it's just get over the idea is that, so you gotta, can you waive the title contingency? Because title is one that lasts longer than a lot, especially now with shortened inspection periods.
Yeah.
Right.
You say that because why?
I say that because we had a buyer that was.
Hold on. Wait a minute. I want the story. But first, Adam, I see the sign. I appreciate Adam, our producer, right? Lena, you're in here as well. Shout out to both of you guys. Thank you for actually, you know what?
Thank you.
Let's roll a commercial real quick. Let's take a quick commercial break because I want to hear your story.
Teams and large producing agents are the overwhelming minority in real estate with no collective voice or recognition of our influence. Isn't it time we have a voice? If we band together and act together, we will hold the power for positive change, not them. If you agree, sign your pledge of support today at realestateleopard.com.
Welcome back, guys. We appreciate you hanging around during our commercial. Man,
it's why we like holding this podcast, because we just see a lot more deals than most people. And so go ahead.
No, your story.
All right. So we have a buyer's agent that's representing a buy. And unfortunately, he presented what is it called? The buyer advisory. Yeah. So he presented the buyer advisory, and they went home and they looked up the sexual predators
website
in the area. But a newer agent, and they submitted their inspections because they had to at day 5, I think, or 6.
Shortened inspection
period. Okay. And they happened to be in an HOA that actually got docs out early, which is usually not that, right?
Yeah.
Because what it is, but the buyer said after they submitted the buyer's inspection notice, which is the one bite at the apple, right? I don't know if you've heard that before, but once you get past that, you have finance, but it was cash.
Okay.
So no financial contingency. We signed the spuds, right?
Yeah.
Our buyer waived the appraisal.
Yeah, cash.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So
and then they find out after the inspection period had ended, because they submitted their BINSR. That's when they identified that there was a sexual predator in the area, and they said to their agent,
well, it was just an issue that
I want out.
They had known about it because they actually included it on the inspection notice that they wanted some extra security measures because of the sexual predator living in the neighborhood. So clearly they knew about it, but it became a material issue after a few days of, oh my God, we got grandkids are going to be over and we're just nervous, right? They want to play outside and we just don't feel comfortable. And so we were looking for ways to get out our buyer because we represent the buyer. And we were, I was checking them off. I'm like, appraisal, check, inspection, check. Like we're going through all the things to try and being out. And the only one because now you're and this isn't the topic of the podcast, but you're like, okay, so did they update the spuds after we submitted the BINSR and had the inspection for the items that were in inspection? Can we ask them to update the spuds? Because then that renews the contingency on the spuds. And now it gives us 5 more days to cancel, right? Like we're deep in this thing and we want to get out. And of course, because the agent, our agent told their agent after they submitted the BINSR, hey, they want to cancel. And he's like, well, too bad your earned money's hard now, is what he said. And of course, then that made me just want to find whatever reason
out.
Yeah. And it turned out to be title they ended up keeping the property, so we didn't have to get there. But the title report did not come out until day 11 or day 12, which was freaking awesome, right? Because we had
the window was still open.
The
to get the
earnest
earnest money.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we didn't have to. But the point of it is that in this conversation of the 5
keys to getting your offer accepted
is you got to get your client to waive these things,
to eliminate as many of the contingencies as possible,
right?
So that you give certainty to that seller and that listing agent that you will close,
right? But they always pay attention to the highline items, right? Like for instance, because things like you can wait, as long as I kept the inspection period of being 10 days, I'm okay, or
to waive the
appraisal because I can get the appraisal done. So you actually don't need that contingency because you can get it done during the inspection period as long as you leave that one long enough. And you can, things like we're not gonna we're going to take the property as is as a statement, but yet not canceling the section. Like there's just things that you can do depending on how smart the agent is, but knowing that you're leaving a door open to lose because you know, when you say, I'm not going to do any, I'm not going to ask for any repairs, we know that you can still ask in our contract if you haven't waived that clause. So,
Yeah.
but the point is that these are the 6 items that you have to address, like but you can be like, all contingencies are waived after day 6 or after day 10, right? Like things to be super strong, because then you're saying, because now you're telling that seller.
But that's just like saying let's go non-refundable earnest money after day 6, right? Because at the end of the day, you could still not perform.
Yes, I think it's better to, I think the strongest way to win is to offer your earnest money hard right from the start.
At acceptance.
Right.
All of it or a portion of it?
Whatever your client can allow.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because the thing is,
I see just a portion of it.
Even just a portion of it, right? Even $3,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 or even $500, just to say something that I'm confident that we're going to walk from some money, you know,
that we're going to close on your house.
Because the key is that you don't know that agent or that seller is that educated on all the stuff that we've been talking about.
That's true.
And so when you're looking to set yourself apart, because we don't see many deals where they're waiving the earnest money up front. I mean, we saw one earlier this year where the house was listed at 1.3 and they said, we'll give you 100,000 non-refundable, but our offer is going to be 1.1. Right. So yeah, you get 100,000, we cancel, but if I get it for 1.1, I ain't going to cancel. Right. Cause I got to steal. Right.
Yeah.
Like, duh. I mean, but the point of this is so that you may need to introduce earned money being non-refundable to the seller,
to the buyer,
to the buyer,
to the listing agent
in your offer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
want to say, look, we're willing to $1,000 for it to be, because it's especially when you have someone that's written 1 offer, 2 offers, 3 offers. Because my thought is always, if I'm an agent and my buyer doesn't want to do it, I'd be like, I'll tell you what, if you want to cancel, and you buy the next house with me, I'll refund it on the next deal. I will discount my commission and credit you 1,000 on the next deal, because that might be the one thing that shows because it shows certainty. We're not going to cancel.
Yeah.
And then, but it's worth it because you got to get them. Sometimes you have people like, well, I can't waive appraisal and I can't do this and I got a contingency. Like you have to be able to stake something in the ground to try and win. And the other thing is I think higher earnest money often influences sellers more than I think it should. I mean, in our contract, earnest money does not change hands often. Is that fair? I mean, not in our roof, not like, I mean.
Yeah, you mean that the most buyers don't lose their earnest money.
Right.
Because the contract's written in such favor of the buyer. There's so many ways to get out and get your earnest money back. It's rare that it gets lost.
Right. And it's our job as quality agents. Everybody on the podcast knows that you're a quality agent, so are we, right? Because we're listening to this, we're going through the details. But that higher number influences sellers. Like if you want to win, coming in with 50,000, now you have to be careful, because then they want that money, because then it gets added on to, so you got to make sure you want it. But I think if you go non-refundable with, obviously if it's 50,000, you might need to be non-refundable with 2,500 or 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000, because obviously you got a lot of money, right? But if you have a higher amount of earned money, it does make you look stronger, even though you got 6 contingencies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like, so a tactic might be, okay, well, I'll waive appraisal and I'll waive, I won't ask for no repairs. And then I'll come in with super high earnest money, knowing that I got these things in my pocketbook, meaning HOA, if there is one, cancel for spuds, and then I mean, I think a good tactic
higher
is
earnest
also
money.
asking for a spudge change before the inspection period's up. That's a loaded gun.
I think that,
You with me?
yes,
Right,
so
because-
you get 5 extra days.
Right.
But you also, I mean, the other tactic there though is to, if you need a few extra days to cancel, is that what you're talking about?
I'm just like, yeah, if you
Then
know,
why don't you just submit them a binzer that is ridiculous that they're never going to say yes to?
Well,
Because
if-
when they respond to you, you have 5 days to
agree.
figure out whether you're going to do that or not.
Well, I mean, here's the thing is on that, yeah, no, that was the error on our agent side is they did not submit. Because I think if you know that your client has an issue, if you want it to say, if you want to help, be truly helping them, that you would submit always one item on there that they can't say
Yes.
yes to.
Like a
right?
new roof.
Like, yeah, right. Like,
Or
yes,
something like
yeah,
that.
right.
3 new AC units.
Or maybe if it doesn't have a barbecue grill and
Yeah,
you
yeah.
you thought it had one and they need one
And a
right?
built-in barbecue
a
grill.
built-in barbecue grill. Yeah.
Yes, nice. Wow, yes. Number 3 and number 4 combined together, the competitive and the terms are really what,
It's the ball game.
like you can actually screw up all the other ones if your offer is competitive and your terms are good enough.
Yeah, usually as long as you're competitive with the offer, meaning price and terms, which is why it has to be its own.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to just say price because it's not always price, because you can have a high price but a contingency.
And you can have a low price, but a lease back.
Right, exactly. Oh, yeah, terms lease back. We didn't throw that one out there, right?
Yeah.
Because that was what we saw now. And we even saw terms being, I will pay for seller's closing costs, right? Like when you're rolling out the terms, it's just like,
Everything's on the table.
right. I mean, to me, just look at an old HUD or look at an old closing disclosure that states all the things that like, okay, we'll pay for the seller's title insurance. We'll pay for the seller's,
Yeah, seller doesn't have to prorate back taxes or whatever.
right. That does not though give certainty like non-refundable earnest money,
Right.
right? Because non-refundable earnest money is the thing of, and pass through to seller,
Yep.
right? Like,
Yep.
we're so confident, like the warm and fuzzy that gives a seller is,
It's not free for them to take, like their fear is that they take their house off of the market and then it cancels and then they're stuck there with no more money. No earnest money that they got to keep. They have to put their house back on the market and do it all over again after they just wasted 2 weeks of going through whatever they went through.
yeah. And the beauty of it is when you write it out, now it gives them a chance to negotiate it as well. Because they didn't know that was an item that they could negotiate, meaning if you said, hey, we're going to put $5,000 earnest money and we're going to let 500 of it be non-refundable, at least then, because you just want to be talking so that you can win.
Yeah.
Right. Like now you've introduced an item that the other ones hasn't. Now, if you're not competitive, they just steal your item and they put it on the other offer. Right. Because we do that a lot. Right. Like when there's,
When you talk to an agent, when you're talking to the seller and they said, well, I wish that one had that.
right.
As the seller is looking at
Right,
all
I
their
mean,
offers, we can
just-
say, well, we can ask.
We can ask.
Can you add this term into your offer? And then they go back to
Right.
their
And why it's
client.
competitive is you have to understand at your price point, which is the amount of terms that you need to be offering. And now, as it's like, the things are, okay, it's overpriced by 50,000 and now it's sat on the market 12 days. Okay. Now do I have to offer, like, that's where the competitive is understanding that, do I have to waive everything and be high? And no, I mean, it's just that's up for you to understand. If it's at 250, then you might need to be, you might need to be cash and you might need to waive all the stuff and give money, like,
Yeah.
because they're getting 10 offers and maybe one from the agent, right? Like, and then now you're competing against the agent's deal and now you need to be way overboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Yes.
Educating consumer pre-offer.
Right. This is the one that is hardest for agents to understand.
Yeah. It's hardest. I think agents get it. It's just, they're not sure what to say. Like, what do you mean by educate my buyer pre-market? Of course, they know that I do that already.
Yeah, well, if you're losing, apparently you're not doing it well enough, right? So that's what we're trying to help people out with. But the thing is there's a psychology of the deal. And in the psychology of the deal, as soon as you start writing, actually, I think it starts as soon as the buyer likes the house.
When they see that property and they're like, this is the one.
Right. They call it commission breath. Okay. Is that the agent becomes a salesperson, not a teacher. Right. At the point in which the buyer likes the house and wants to make an offer, you are now their friend, but a competitor, because they're nervous because agents have commission breath.
And you're saying increase your offer to your client, and your client is like, no, let's offer less.
Yes, right.
And so now
because
you
you're
bring
like,
out-
wave the title, wave the thing, and they're looking at you like, is she, pushing me because she's shown me 30 houses in this hot market and I haven't bought one? And that skepticism is there, whether you want it to be or not. And that the strategy that I found most successful is to
pre-educate before they get excited about a house.
Right. So, Jeff, what is pre-education? Pre-education is understanding what the buyer's using for their sources of information, and are those sources credible or not, right? Like, give you an example. So I had one where the agent came to me. We were in a conference room and she's like, I wrote 6 offers and I can't get my client to offer high enough.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, did you go through we have a booklet that we put together of market stats to educate the buyer on, that we have agents use. And she's like, well, the parents, like I had a dig and it was the parent that was making the buy, not the buyer.
Right.
Because the parents was loaning them money, giving them money to buy the house.
The parents were negotiating it, even though the parents weren't talking to the agent. And so they educate themselves off of the news media.
Yes.
Rather than the stats.
Right.
They think they bought 10 houses in their life. They know that you never offer.
No, well, the last time they bought 10 houses, the market was 2014 and they were able to offer 20,000 off.
Right.
Right. That they've never seen a market like this. So I said, you need to go present the market information, ask the parents, because the simple thing is this, is ask the buyer or whoever is the buyer, meaning, is it mom, is it the sister, or is it the client, or is it the wife, or is it the husband, is it the, whoever, right? Where do you get your information on the market? And most people say, poll the audience. Where do people get their information from? Maybe Eric, Michael, Suzette, anyone else?
When you're asking a client, you want to know, like a buyer in the
Right,
room, you
because
say,
I
and they come in with a predetermined idea of what the market is doing. You dig.
I dig. And you need to dig.
What led to that predetermined idea?
Right, because they get it somewhere, and I just want to, because what it is even when I present the market charts on where it's at, and I mean a market chart,
I know what they say.
It's supply, it's how many homes are selling this month versus last month, how many compared to last year, charts.
Jeff, I've been watching the market.
Okay.
We got a chat.
I've been watching.
What'd you get?
We got a chat.
What does it say?
Suzette said what their friends are saying, common news.
Oh, the neighbor.
Common news.
Common
Both.
news.
Good job, Suzette.
Right. Nice. I actually interviewed an agent this week and he said, he was a new agent to the industry, and he said, I've been watching this market. And I said, oh, nice. Where have you been watching it? I've been paying a lot of attention to Zillow, and I have seen what is going on in this marketplace. I've been watching the prices. I've been seeing their charts, and he now knows, convinced himself that he knows exactly what is going on in this marketplace because of the education he gave himself by watching Zillow.
Well, but that's every buyer now.
Right.
Because the thing is what we're seeing is that they used to go to the agent and now they go to the internet to source,
educate themselves.
And because the internet has lots of information, they
Yes.
believe they're educated. So go on.
And they believe the agent. No, I'm just saying Zillow's another
Yeah,
source.
Zillow, Friends,
Friends,
News,
Zillow,
yes.
CNBC,
Right.
whatever. Like,
Okay, yes, and the key, why it's key is because you need to get those out, because when they say news, who are they actually talking about? They're talking about the Associated Press, right? Because the news follows the bulletin. Like, I don't watch news anymore,
no, but the Associated Press loves Case Shiller. Case Shiller just happens to be 90 days old.
right, exactly. But sometimes Case Shiller can be your best friend, but it's your job before you before you're making offers, for you to sit down with that buyer and talk to them about what's going on, and to show them pictures, not just,
Tell them.
well,
Yeah.
not just, well, I mean, a lot of people like, oh, well, I showed them the comps and they printed out that CMA that has 100 houses on it. And it's just, it's not visual enough. You have to use visual graphs and charts, like we like the Crown Report here locally, but because it puts it in the charts, because it impacts people, because when they see it, it changes their mind. And that's what the point is here, is that you need to change their mind before they write an offer with concrete stuff, because now you're not in commission breath. You're an educator.
Yes.
You have that opportunity. You show a few houses and now you can educate them.
So the one of the things that we showcased this week in our team meeting was how to take a screen capture and write on that screen capture, so that you can point out the things like the average list to sale price is 103%, and not just giving them a whole big data.
And why we're having a podcast is because people still didn't know how to take a screen capture, and therefore we know they weren't selling with pictures.
Right.
Right. Because you have to, they're hotkeys, right? Like Windows Shift S, or I think it's Command Shift 4 for an Apple. Yeah. Right. Like,
Boom.
I'm not really familiar with it.
Yeah.
I take a lot.
I gotta give Adam credit, because I was always the Mac guy, right? And so then when I started using the PC, he's like, Windows Shift S, bro. And I'm like, Windows Shift S, okay. And I tried it, and I'm like, that's amazing. And then and I went back to him like a week later.
The editor tool is different.
A week later, I went back to him and I was like, hey, what was it again? Windows Shift S. All right, that's right. Windows Shift S. All right, Jeff, we got through all 5.
Hey guys.
Yes,
Mike.
Hey guys.
What's up, Mike?
Hey, one thing I'd like to interject is number 5 here. I think you guys are too late to the game. Educating the buyer should start at your buyer broker introduction interview. And throughout your process of working with that buyer, constantly feed them the information of your charts, of the direction of the market. The market's a localized market. It's not a national market. We're microeconomics, not macroeconomics. And so when you're ready to write the contract, they understand the direction this market's going or has been going. And then you finalize that with your refined comps. You don't send them 100 comps for mass confusion. You send them the comps that are market specific to that home itself. And then you review those listing by listing with the buyer, and showing how much over list price they got and what the market expectation may be. That's just my opinion.
We love your opinion.
You're actually right.
You're spot on.
Because it was number 5, though, didn't mean that we talk about it later. These are just the 5 points for any agent moving forward. But thank you. I
want to reemphasize that number 5 is educating consumer pre-offer. Like, you're right, Mike. This is all before they get excited about a house. This is when you first have your consultation with them, or on the first couple properties that you look at.
I suggested at the first meeting. Yeah. Right. Like the first time you ever meet them is when you should be presenting market stats. I think that was Michael's what he's saying, and great job, great call out, because he's right. It's right away. Because it was number 5.
What you can also do is invite your client to a specific time at your office to meet you when you do your Zoom meeting with Tina Tambour or the Crawford Report. No one puts the market in perspective as well as she does, and she backs up with all the statistics. So if your client's sitting in your office with you and you're spending the time with them, hey, let's come in the office. Tina Tambour knocks out of the park. It's important information. I want you to make sure you're aware of it. Have them come to your office and watch Tina's presentation. She does them every week, twice a week. They're so easy to get into. And that's another way to present the market direction with
Next
a third
level.
party.
Yeah, we're talking the same thing. I mean, the
Next
thing is
level.
we in today's market, we're just not seeing clients come to the office. I mean, we're having to do it at houses, on cars, on the presentation of the market has to be mobile with you. I think that, you know, we print out the charts or have the agents try and print out charts, take them with them because that's what is needed. But great point, Michael.
Awesome. What else? Eric, you got 2 cents? Suzette, you want to chime in as well? What are you guys doing? Oh yeah, 1:43. We got 2 more minutes. As I'm watching their unmute buttons not
All right,
get
I
pressed.
got another tidbit for you guys.
I love it. Let's go.
Is have your agents write detailed email cover letters with the offer, because you may only get that one time to present your offer. So
Oh,
what if you're
yes.
what if you're waiving the appraisal or waiving 20 grand up to the appraisal? Well, what about including a proof of funds statement with that offer package showing your buyer has the legs? But
Yes.
right in the cover letter, hey, the team I work with, the title company, the lender, will all be there to close the escrow with you. Please reach out and contact the lender who's easily accessible
Yeah.
to talk about the qualifications of the buyer. We will be there to close escrow. Use that language in writing in your email to grab their attention. What I get on my listings from half the agents out there, I get forwarded the Authenticign thing. Then I got to open the Authenticign, scroll to page 9 to find out who emailed me that. You know,
Yeah.
how personal is that?
Awesome.
Hey, you know, that's got to be a super strong offer in order to get your attention if you're delivering it that way.
I know, but
I
you know,
agree.
is that the agent you want to be working with? Really? You know,
Well,
somebody that's going to communicate with you and
number
be there to
one,
close
right?
the
Like
escrow.
agent,
Yeah,
agent
number one.
communication. When their communication's poor, you may not want to work with them.
And
All
you know
right?
it's not. You know
One
you
more
don't.
thing, guys, having the seller update the SPDS, man, that's weak. That's something you throw at a new agent. They don't have to update the SPDS. The disclosure, the updated disclosure is the inspection itself. So it's kind of underhanded, taking advantage of that naive agent who thinks, oh yeah, I need to have my seller update the SPDS. No, they don't. The
No.
disclosure is the inspection itself.
Yeah, I think that if you need to extend the days by 5, the better way to do it, I don't know. I'd love to hear your take. The better way to do it is to give them a Binzer that you know they're not going to say yes to,
Right.
because then you get an extra 5 days if they respond to you immediately, right? To decide
Or
whether.
request, the better way is just simply request an extension of the Binzer inspection period for various reasons. If you don't
Fair.
get it, then cancel. If your directions is canceled, then cancel,
Fair.
you know, but
Yep.
try to get an extension first.
Yes, agreed. Totally agree.
My 2 cents from this veteran, right?
I
No,
know. I
it's-
like your 2
it's
cents.
good. I mean, we were trying to stick to top 5. We got 6 and 7. I
But
completely
look,
agree with
Mike,
7.
Mike, so he was an agent at the Lakeshore office, John Hall and Associates. He was there. He was there in my beginning.
Nice.
Right,
nice.
Mike?
Exactly. Exactly. No,
Awesome. Thank you
you're-
so much for your feedback.
your content is great, guys. That's why I tune in and listen to you, because we can always pick up extra nuggets to help us in the business. You guys are great.
Let's wrap it up
Awesome.
with that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
We are going to wrap it up. Thanks for everybody for tuning in.
Happy Thursday.
See you in a week.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.